And welcome to the daily space weather, folks. We're going to have a slightly different format today. Things will be in a slightly different order. I don't know if you were aware or not, but it turns out that I'm Mr. Green Christmas. I'm Mr. Sun. I'm Mr. Heat Blister. I'm Mr. 101. We see some activity on the northern portion of the solar disk here. We see a giant plasma filament up here in the northwest, which we'll be looking at throughout the day. And also a possible sunspot rising up here. Looks like cycle 25 once again due to the polarity, as well as the high latitude very far off the equator. Here's the equatorial region. And here's the south, complete with date stamps. And let's look at some more views here. That's about 9 hours of activity, by the way. Here's the colorized magnetogram, and you can see the magnetic polarity associated with that sunspot is cycle 25 in nature, as the leading polarity here is North Pole oriented. So another example of a cycle 25 plage, possibly about to become a sunspot. And here's the 304 angstrom view. You can see that giant plasma filament in the northwest. Not sure if that'll collapse or not. So we'll keep an eye on it. And when we say ion, the pun is intentional. I think we've got a resolution issue here. Let me just take a look at that real quick. And indeed, we're viewing 512. Let's get the full res image here. I apologize for that, folks. Give that one a chance to load. And I'll show you the zoomed out 171 angstroms view in the meantime. And there's the full disk. And that's taken too long to load. Let's just move on. KP index is at geomagnetic unrest conditions, folks. KP of 4 has been re-achieved here. It went up to 4, back down to 2, and then back up to 4. In the wee hours of the morning here on December 19th. Look at the real-time solar wind. We see the solar wind speed is still elevated at over 500 kilometers a second. Solar wind density remains elevated also, but it's dropped very low there. Check it out. It got all the way down to 0.07. Very low levels. But now it's back up to about something like 5 protons per cubic centimeter there. Phi angle just got into a 180-degree range. So we see quite a shifting phi angle there associated with this incoming coronal hole wind stream. And the density is just kicked back up again in the past several hours. Anyway, there's the graphs. Take it as you will. And there's the data from ACE looking corroborative as it typically does. Again, we saw some very, very low solar wind densities there. Practically all the way down to 1/10 of a proton per cubic centimeter, according to ACE. And here's the GOES X-ray flux. The GOES X-ray flux. No kind of significant flaring activity, although a small little bit of activity kicking up there. So again, since there is a active region rising, we'll be looking at the possibility of the X-ray flux going up. And in about 24 hours, we're expecting an increase in the electron flux. We won't get into the physics of how it works on this video. Just keep in mind that by this time tomorrow, we'll probably see higher non-cratered electron flux levels. And there you can see we call this proton light, as the solar wind is it's about 90% protons, folks, and that's primarily hydrogen nuclei. and they really want an electron, and that's the way the electron flux gets affected by the incoming coronal hole wind streams. Relativistic electrons are still at very low levels, and we're expecting these to soar also, as this was a very strong coronal hole wind stream, preceded by very high levels of proton density. So we're expecting the electrons to be chasing, and so look for these to be rising in the next 24 hours also. A little bit of an increase in the possibility of GPS errors, especially around the equator at noontime. What are you doing for the solstice? Well, it's in only two days and 18 hours since we made the video. By the way, we are streaming live on Twitch. If you want to catch the stuff in real time, check out twitch.tv/smAsho. And join us as we make the videos. And welcome, Mighty Magnificent Mary. Cheers. Anyway, what are you doing on the solstice? Saturday night at 11 p.m., we're going to be doing a live stream, probably on 3 platforms. We're expecting to do Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook all at the same time. To drum up some additional support, we created the new thumbnail. Here's what the new thumbnail looks like. Set yourself a reminder. Go to youtube.com/smAsho and find our upcoming stream. Shout out to the Velo Shop and Becky, as well as to Terry. Thanks for the coffee shipment, folks. By the way, check out theveloshop.net for all your cycling needs. If you're in the area, perhaps stop by for a winter training session. It's like playing a video game, but you're on a bike. And they've even got gift cards. So stop by at 5412 Shimerville Road in Emmaus, PA. Or if you got questions about bike-related stuff, send Becky an email at info@theveloshop.net. Theveloshop.net, our cycling team and sponsor. By the way, thanks for everybody who supports the channel via Patreon, the real source of funding for our videos. We greatly appreciate your support. And if you are not yet a patron, please consider becoming one, entering our operation on the ground level, as we do all kinds of new things. And we even tell you about some of them. Let's look at the geospace magnetosphere movies here. As we are in geomagnetic unrest conditions, we're expecting to see some higher pressure in the magnetohydrodynamics, and we still see an extremely offset magnetosphere, especially from the equatorial plane view. Very offset magnetosphere there. And we typically do see these big offsets around the solstice like we did last year. We've made hundreds of space weather videos. Anyway, there's 4 hours of data. I'm going to let that play through a second time. As we see, the primary pressure is in the magnetotail region. And we'll be looking at the ionosphere momentarily to see if the South Pacific anomalies continue. My guess is that they will continue. And there you can see multiple double layers forming. In the high pressure environment at a 500 plus kilometer per second solar wind speed. And I think we've lost the ground magnetic perturbations. Let's go straight to the ionosphere movies. And let's make sure I got the right data for you there. I apologize for any delay. Anyway, there's 6 hours of the ionosphere. And we see a charged up ionosphere in the South Pacific once again. Even more heavily charged than it's been. As it is nighttime there, you would expect the ionosphere to be a little bit discharged. We've been seeing this for the last several weeks, about a month really. And let's look at the GOES magnetometer is apparently next. And we see extreme sawtooth spikes as there is a polarity current sheet crossing, probably happening right as these spikes occur. And we'll take a look at it in a minute. First, we're going to look at the ground geospace magnetic perturbations as we are living through a polar excursion, folks. And we see major induced current over the North Pole and the South Pole. And to me, the South Pole looks like it's split into two, just like the North Pole has, as we see major current south of South America, as well as major current creeping into the southern Indian Ocean. We see major perturbations over Siberia, as well as the Canadian North Pole, which seems to be farther south. And I'm just going to let that play through a second time, as there's a lot of information. As a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is worth 1,000 pictures, which brings you to 1,000,000 words, if I've done my math correctly. And let's move on to more data, such as the Gong 2. Now we're back looking at the heliosphere. And as forecasted, we are probably already in the South Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet. The South Pole charged portion depicted here in red. This data is 1 hour and 10 minutes old. And that magnetic field force line depicted here in orange from the Earth to the Sun is going to snap across, if it already hasn't snapped across. The GOES magnetometer is a little bit more of a real-time data indicator than the Gong 2, as this is usually about an hour old. So we could already be in the South Pole-oriented portion of the current sheet, folks. And once we're solidly in that portion, expect the GOES magnetometer to smooth out a little bit. Let's look at the earthquake rundown. Past 24 hours included no 6+ magnitude earthquakes. Let's just scroll up the list. Here's a deep one by Tonga at a 4.3 magnitude. At 175 kilometers depth, here's a deep quake in Japan at a 4.7 magnitude. Here's a 5.3 has struck Fiji. That one came in at 12:19 UT yesterday. 5.3 magnitude at 167 kilometers. A deep quake at Peru, as Western South America continues to see deep quakes. Several a week. Here's an earthquake right on the surface at Hawaii at a depth of 0 kilometers. And here's another Hawaiian quake at negative 0.0 kilometers. Let's take a look at that one, as it's been oddly cited here by USGS. Excuse me. And that one is kind of underneath Mauna Loa there. Could be associated with some lava tubes, magma chambers, etc. Would not be a surprise at all. Let me get back to the list here, as there's quite a few quakes on it. Again, nothing at a 6 magnitude or higher. Let me just get through the list here so everybody can see it. Uh, 2.5 magnitude explosion at Princeton, Canada. Never saw that before. That's a new one on me. Currently being reviewed. And it took place at a depth of 500 meters above sea level. Anyway, let's just move on here. Here's another deep quake at Chile. Western South America heads up for a larger quake at the surface in Western South America. There's one taking place at Washington. Please leave a comment if you felt that quake. Here's a very deep quake at the Fiji Islands. Largest quake of the past 24, I think, at a 5.5 magnitude and a depth of 623 kilometers. That would be over a 7 magnitude quake if it happened at the surface. And that could cause a tsunami in that area. Let's hope it doesn't happen. Tsunami, one of the deadliest forces in the world. Here's a deep quake near Redoubt Volcano. And there ends that list. Let's look at windy.com's pressure maps. We're going to let this advance. Move the map a little bit for you here. We'll let that advance about 24 hours. And it's currently 4:48 where I'm located. That's 4:48 a.m., folks. We don't butt in line. People request us to report to the front of the line. What can I say? Anyway, there's where pressure zones are expected to be in about 24 hours. Let's keep moving on as there's plenty more stuff to cover. Everything from impeachment to stupid scientific studies. But first we'll do volcanoes. Current eruptions include Mount Aso. Possible activity there. Sakurajima did indeed explode a few hours ago at 4 o'clock Zulu. That's 4 o'clock Universal Time, folks. 4 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time just happens to be the same time. Sanjiang-Api, flight level 8,000. Dakono, flight level 7,000. Popocatépetl, no observed emissions. Fuego, not observed. Sangay exploding. 20,000-foot ash plume there. Revenador, volcanic ash cloud reported. And Sabancaya, not identifiable in satellite data. Don't consider that an opportunity to pole vault the caldera at Sabancaya. Here's the U.S. Doppler radar map as we get into the value-added services. And I have no comment, and I'm not zooming in anywhere, as there's still more stuff to cover like lightning. Here's your real-time lightning map, courtesy of lightningmaps.org. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from Europe or from any place besides the U.S. As a bunch of lightning strikes the Mediterranean, don't be on a boat there. You could end up as a fried hunk. Nobody wants to be a fried hunk. Here's a U.S. water vapor map. As dry air is largely in control, the jet stream air is just bouncing off of that. As dry, massive air runs the atmosphere, folks. I know everybody pays attention to low pressure systems, but the dry, massive air is what causes them in the first place. The dry air is really the input, folks. It's more massive. It kind of controls the way things operate. Similar to the way protons control the way things operate in cosmology. Let's look at this convergence zone over the three-way Mexico, Arizona, New Mexico border. As I see some convergence lines happening there. And there's that scenario. Some significant pressure gradients happening in those regions. And hello to the Hall currents. Hi, Hall currents. By the way, thanks for everybody watching on Twitch and leaving comments. We appreciate it. Oh, look, there's me. And thanks, Smash Team, for tuning in wherever you did, whether it's on YouTube syndication, or whether it's on Twitch, or on BitChute, or on Minds, or on Gab, or Facebook, or wherever you happen to be watching the videos. Welcome to the That Is an Ass, and That Is a Hole in the Ground. The portion of the video that is utterly vulgarity-free, as an ass is a pack animal, and that is a sinkhole, and we encourage our viewers to understand the distinction between the two. Let's hear what some celebrities had to say about impeachment. I have very little to say about it, as it's a complete farce. Christy Swanson says, when you people witness what will come of this day, your jaws will drop, your legs will collapse, and you'll fall to your knees in a pool of shame begging for forgiveness. Chuck Woolery says, in November, we'll find out how in touch Democrats are with the people outside of Washington, as he doesn't think that Democrats are going to be able to come up with a candidate to get elected president. And I share his view. Who are they going to run? Liz Warren? I mean, who are they going to run? Cory Booker? Joe Biden? It's a complete joke. The Democrats need to come up with a candidate here. Let's see what some other celebs had to say. George Takei says the GOP speakers at the impeachment debate should dress up as cats, just so we get two ridiculous things that no sane person should ever be subjected to out of the way in one fell swoop. Well, that was snarky. Chelsea Handler says Maxine Waters didn't even want to go through all the reasons Trump should be impeached, but I guarantee they would make a lot more sense in that 6-page letter Trump sent to Nancy Pelosi. Okay, what did Rosie O'Donnell have to say? Happy Impeachment Day! Everybody's very excited, as Donald Trump is the only of three, is the latest of only 3 presidents ever to be impeached. And by the way, he won't be leaving office. Alyssa Milano expected the moment to be joyful and is suggesting that maybe they should do a happy dance. Bette Midler. Bette Midler says Trump blocked his aides from testifying and refused to release a single document. He stonewalled Ms. Cheney. He has called upon foreign nations to interfere in our elections repeatedly. And in public, he should have been removed with the words Russia, if you're listening. Kathy Griffin, anyway, I'm going to stop reading this stuff. By the way, if you're wondering how the votes went, it was completely partisan except for 3 Democrats. 1 voted present. That was Tulsi Gabbard. 1 is Republican Jeff Van Drew, who's in the process of becoming a Republican. Maybe he'll move out of New Jersey, too, if he's obviously a little bit, a little bit too conservative. Anyway, only 3 Democrats failed to vote for impeachment, and every Republican voted against impeachment. We left links to the article, as well as to this one about the solstice. So this is from Farmer's Almanac. Looking at it from the winter perspective, shout out to you viewers in the Southern Hemisphere, where it will become summer. So, again, join us at 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as we do a live solstice stream. And we'll just get on and stream for an hour and talk about whatever we want, whether it's cosmology or astrophysics or literally whatever we want. Let's go back to cosmology, as there is an interesting image with a multi-trillion-mile-long radio filament. And you'll see this one all over the science wires today. If you read the science wires, you see this very, very lengthy radio arc, which is kind of to the left of Sagittarius A star, if you're looking in that direction. And here's the article about it. This composite image includes infrared in blue, radio frequency in red, and new microwave observations in green. It's a 1 quadrillion mile long cosmic candy cane. And you can kind of see that there. The radio arc. I don't know what the deal is here. They're saying the new images are in green, but this candy cane looking feature here is in radio frequency, so I don't understand what the significance of the gizmo is. But the gizmo is a 2 millimeter wavelength microwave telescope. And let's just move on. Have a read of the article. It's yet another feature found and not necessarily expected near the galactic core. Let's talk about 5 idiotic scientific studies. I guess you could call them science. Professor says border enforcement harms the environment. Now that one's probably true, as doing things like building walls and driving bulldozers around and just lots of human traffic does, affect the environment in a bad way, I would imagine. So let's move on to number 4. New York University promotes paper comparing cow insemination to rape, milking cows to sexual abuse. I think we should get Cenk Uygur on this one, as maybe he can pleasure the cows, which, in his opinion, should not be illegal. He wants to loosen the bestiality laws, folks, and we're really hoping Cenk gets into the U.S. House of Representatives, because I want to hear Cenk, argue the good points of bestiality in front of the U.S. House of Representatives. Here's another one. Tom Brady's white male omnipotence buttresses American white supremacy. What? I didn't know Tom Brady was omnipotent. I think that might be cheating. And by the way, the Patriots have been implicated once again for cheating by filming the Cincinnati Bengals sideline. Check this one out. The welfare of atheists and agnostics is reduced by prayers. Are you praying for atheists and agnostics to have bad things happen to them? Well, that's just not very nice, is it? And lastly, SpongeBob perpetuates violent racist acts against indigenous people. So this is the kind of stuff that they're studying in universities, which are largely state-funded organizations. Her chief complaint was that the series bases its fictional setting on the non-fictional location of Bikini Atoll, a coral reef in the Marshall Islands used by the U.S. military for nuclear testing during the Cold War. She says SpongeBob as an American seems to have no regard for the usage of nuclear warfare and occupying land that does not belong to him. SpongeBob, pure evil. Pure evil, SpongeBob. I mean, what is up with that? Talk about some human health stories, or a human health story. Were you aware that regularly eating chili peppers lowers the risk of cardiovascular disease? Now, every time I tell people this, they say, I can't eat chili peppers. They upset my stomach. It's not true, folks. The reason your stomach is getting upset is because you're consuming the peppers with fatty foods or eating too much food. If you eat the peppers by themselves, they don't have the capacity to upset your stomach. You don't have the kind of pain sensors in your stomach that are required to feel the burn from the capsaicin in the first place. So, hey viewers, eat more chili peppers. And if you're wondering what's in the coffee, there's cayenne pepper in there, which is made from the skin of chili peppers. Every morning we consume organic coffee with coconut oil, which is also organic, by the way, organic nutmeg, organic cayenne pepper, and cocoa powder. So that's a massive antioxidant cocktail. And we've left links to the USA Today article also below the video. Let's talk about big tech, which is part of the reason why we're on all kinds of different social media platforms, because you never know when you'll be banned, shadow banned, thrown off of, depersoned, whatever, deplatformed. And so I made this little meme here about Mark, who learned how to drink water in front of Congress. Censorship. Who needs the government when big tech will censor you for free? It's totally free, folks. They're not spying on you. Captain, censors indicate censorship, fraud, political bias, and spyware emanating from big tech. Dear big tech, were you aware that you can't break the internet? Were you aware that the internet can break you? Change your behavior before the world stomps on your neck. This is why we're on various other social media, such as BitChute, as our YouTube channel could be deleted at any time with no warning. And thanks to our new subscribers and those viewing the videos over there. Expand your horizons. Here's the alternative to Twitter. It's called Gab. So check us out there, gab.com/smAsho. We're going to start actually putting up posts in there. And also, if you enjoy the content on YouTube, please press like and subscribe here or there or wherever you happen to be. We're also on minds.com/smAsho, which we believe to be the future, the alternative to Facebook. And I better not be doing that because, well, Minds is fairly uncensored, folks, and you won't be shadow banned if you join minds.com. Also, we would encourage everybody to please consider becoming a patron and help to support the channel as it grows, expands into all kinds of new areas, delving into new hardware, software, formats, associations, collaborations, music production, and all kinds of other stuff like writing scientific papers. And thanks again for tuning in, Smash Team. Stay tuned for a bonus video. It's 48 hours of the local yellow dwarf. in 131 angstroms, I think. We're going to get it to play, folks. Don't worry. And again, there's that 131 angstroms view. It's 48 full hours of activity there, folks. And you can see that little hot spot rising north of the equator right at the very end of the video. Keep an eye on that throughout the day. And when I say eye on, the pun is still intentional. Please share our videos on your social media, as we're trying to increase our scope despite the best efforts of organizations such as Google. Google. Anyway, stare at the sun, don't drink, and if you drink, don't drive. Since it'll never be now again, may that solar wind be at your back, and may that atherosclerosis be absent from your veins.